the safety of the community cannot effectively be carried out with Mayor Warren remaining in office. The competence of the people and our members have been critically lost. While we remain committed in serving the community, the need for leadership that can be trusted is imperative. That's where I end my words. I certainly will take any questions that you may have.
So Mike, let me get this straight. You're calling for her resignation?
To be clear, yes. Yes. I think it's clear to all who have seen the events of the last few days that there's a need for change. I think when we have a whole command staff walk out the door, then I think something's wrong. I think too many people are involved in this that know the truth, and for some of them that haven't figured out the truth, I hope they learn soon.
What was your initial reaction to hearing about everybody leaving at command?
You know, I'm surprised certainly, but I get not really shocked. I feel for the rank and file that I think was probably a little bit more caught off guard than we are. I think I saw it coming, and I think I heard enough of frustrations to anticipate it. It's a difficult decision to make. It's difficult for a cop out there, maybe working nights, trying to do the best job they can do, to get to hear this. Perhaps a young officer who doesn't really know too many people other than what's in front of them, to question what happens now, what do I do, who do I go to, who do I listen to, will I be here next week? Meanwhile, trying to deal with very, very difficult days, and then also confusion on, am I doing everything right? Will I do everything right on my next call? And then who's going to judge me? And who's going to tell me if I have my job or not? A lot of concerns, a lot of questions.
Mike, do you have thoughts about this as the search for a new chief begins? Would you prefer to see someone promoted from within?
You know, I don't think it, at this point in time, well, considering the last few days, I don't think we've even had a minute to even think about that. I know from their own statements that they're going to be at least here to the end of the month. Perhaps when we do a search for the chief, we could do a search for the mayor.
Can you expand on, you say you saw the resignations coming. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Well, I think I saw the frustrations. You know, a mayor has to appoint people that she trusts to run various departments. She does not have the expertise to run any department. She oversees them. You have to rely on the people in those positions to do the best job they can do, possibly, and to rely on their experience and their training and their knowledge to make the right decisions. When you start to believe that you have all the answers and you're going to make tactical decisions that could affect the safety and life of not only police officers but demonstrators, then I think that's when it becomes a problem.
And do you see this as a form of protest for the command staff and the chief stepping down?
I'm sorry, did I see?
Do you see this as a form of protest for command staff stepping down?
Oh, I don't know if it's a protest or if they just had enough, quite frankly. That's concerning because when you have command staff who's had enough, you know, it's usually from the bottom up where people get to the point of just being completely frustrated, and we are seeing that through retirements and, you know, the the actions of some who are seeking other employment and so forth. When you see it from the top coming down, I mean, that's really disturbing. There's nobody to give any assurances to the men and women out in the street doing the job that things will get better, things are okay. That voice is not out there now.
Do you plan to stay in your position? Do you feel what the chief is going through? Are there any thoughts of you stepping down out of as a result of this?
Absolutely not. I have 700 plus members that it's my passion and it's my commitment to support them. I will not walk away at this point in time, no matter how bad it gets. It's difficult, it's tough. I've heard enough people tell me and ask me why I'm still here. Because we have to protect those who protect everyone else, quite frankly.
You seem to imply that tactical decisions of what to do during these protests are coming directly from City Hall and not from PSB. Do you want to elaborate on that at all?
Well, I think those are the questions you should be asking directly to the chief and the command staff, if they feel in a position to talk. Maybe they're not at the position to talk right now. Maybe at the end of the month they'll be more willing to speak. Certainly, from all of us who have spent many, many years as a police officer, it's not hard for us to look at a situation, to listen to commands on the radio, to look and see vulnerabilities in where we have people assigned and the numbers and where the barricades are placed and a number of other factors to say something's not right. The department spend a lot of training to send people out to training to deal with large protests. They know what they're doing. They don't look at it as what the protesters represent. They only look at it as what their function is to ensure a safe protest or demonstration. When you see deviations from that, when you see comments from other agencies that are assisting us with their concerns and frustrations, that does not go to the chief's office, that goes to the mayor's office. And she needs to back away from that and let people that know what they're doing do the job. And perhaps she should back out again and let somebody that knows what they're doing do her job.
Do you have concerns if these protests continue and the command staff is gone by the end of the month about how the department moves forward in dealing with them?
I have concerns, but I also am a realist. I know there's enough good people in this community that will come forward, that we have a job to do, and we're going to get that job done. What I'll tell my membership is that we serve the people. We don't serve a politician. And we have that job, and we're committed to that. And many of them have families and friends that they're concerned about, that live within the community. A number of our officers that live in the community, we're invested there. We may not, a large majority of us may not live in the city, but we probably spend more waking time in the city than even people that reside within the city. We're part of the city. We used to be part of the neighborhoods, but that was another poor decision that seems to come to politicians who don't have knowledge, don't have experience, but have all the answers somehow. I'll say what I've seen in the last couple of days is very disturbing from a number of city council members. Their comments referring to some of our people as murderers are just totally unacceptable. And these are new council members that certainly don't have knowledge, don't have experience, and I'll tell you, I can't recall any council member in the last 2 years reaching out to me to say, what can we do to help? What do you need? What can we provide for your people that they need to go out and do the best job possible? What they have done is shut the door in our face. They've refused to hear our concerns. They refused to want to hear from the people that do the job every day, that know it best what the problems are, what the issues are, and more importantly, how we can get to a better place. Those people on council that believe that's the best way to govern are there for some other agenda, and it's not to serve this city and the people who elected them.
At the same time, you talk about the painting that was on the road in front of the PSB. Since the press conference with the mayor and the police chief this weekend, we haven't seen any tear gas or pepper balls deployed at the protesters, and they're calling it peaceful. What are your thoughts about that? The fact that it seems as though the environment has changed in the protesting side.
Well, I think you might want to ask the protesters that. I think that there's enough evidence there that all of those things existed to put our people that were working that demonstration in harm's way. There was a very thin line to what could have been a very bad situation. It worked that way for now. We're hoping it works that way forever. There's no one in command or working the line down there that want to engage the protesters. And remember, from our people's perspectives, they follow orders. They're the foot soldiers. The generals call the commands out, and they respond appropriately. But we can't put them in a place for them not to succeed or to be in danger. And we certainly can't allow individuals to do certain things that are going to endanger peaceful protesters. The right to protest is the strongest attribute to this country, and I think it's a commitment that every police officer in this country believes they have a responsibility to protect.
Mike, if I could, I want to ask about the federal lawsuit that was filed yesterday. Within it, it says that the officers involved in the Prude case didn't comply with the AG's investigation. What's your reaction to that?
I think my reaction is that we welcome the AG's office in. And I think that if there were any concerns or not strong communication, I think those matters will all be rectified as this investigation moves forward. Our officers took part and cooperated with the criminal investigation that was started. The AG's office works in a number of ways. Sometimes they work hand in hand simultaneously. Sometimes they work separately. Sometimes they work in some other very hybrid way. What comes down to the communication or the cooperation of our members now will depend on their attorneys and the advice they give to our members, which is a constitutional right that everyone in this country has. I don't believe there was certainly any action to not allow contact. I think that the investigation was still continuing, and obviously over the circumstances there's been a concern to maybe complete it and move forward. And that's where we're at. There's more blame going in every direction possible instead of what the real answer is. Let's just seek the truth, and we go from there. And whatever that determination of the truth is, then we'll deal with it. Let's do this correctly. We owe it to the community, and we owe it to our members, and we're committed to that as well. Let's get to a better place here. That's what it comes down to.
Last week, we had a spot I seemed to indicate that you didn't really realize or see the body cam video until it was released publicly. But I've been told that the union had the video back in April. Were you ever aware of that? The body cam video of the incident?
In April.
In April.
We have a timeline. I'm not aware. What we received, what I was aware of, and I went back to be able to. And now let me address this correctly. Our the attorney who was working with our members had access to the video. So if that's what they mean by the union, that's probably correct in that sense. The videos, though, that were turned over to us, and all of them, was turned over July 31st. Through the protocols that we have in place, through our body-worn camera agreement, which says that upon releasing those videos, we'll be notified, and our members will be notified. You know, there's a lot of questions going on around about who know what, when, and where. I cannot tell you why this didn't follow every other protocol that we would find in a similar case from starting that night. And that means that it would be determined or designated to be a critical incident. You know, we're notified, and everybody goes in, and everybody starts to work on this. Those are questions that we want to get to the bottom of, and I think everybody does. And when we get there, we'll have the truth.
So it wasn't designated a critical incident the night it occurred, or 7 days after when he lost his life?
Well, if it was, we weren't notified. We work cooperatively with the department. It took many, many years to get there to that point. Remember, our function, especially in those, is not necessarily to immediately represent, but to ensure that everybody's okay. That if someone needs some attention, some wellness, so forth, then that's our role initially. And that's our first role, to make sure everybody's okay and go from there. In terms of representation in those situations, the first move would be our attorneys to deal with it. You know, our representation under Weingarten, under the Taylor Law, comes in as an internal is determined to start. And there was no internal investigation started that night, or to my knowledge. The department will have to answer that. I can't give you a date on that, other than us being told last week or hearing that there's an internal. We wouldn't make that determination because it would be based on what the department felt going forward. Was there a review, is there a need, or not? It's obviously that all the other circumstances have initiated or caused to initiate an internal. That's okay. It's another level of accountability. And we probably have about 10 or 11 levels as well. We just need a little bit more in City Hall.
Like you talked about the rank and file officers, how difficult it is for them, that they feel a lack of support. Can you expand on what that's like maybe for some of these younger officers in particular?
You know, these are difficult times, certainly. There's a lot of pressure and stress. You know, in the circumstances going around the country, that you could find yourself in that position at a split second, and your whole life is going to change. That's there anyways. And then when you add the circumstances that are going on now, you know, there's a heightened stress level to our officers at a time when they're being asked to work long hours and to hold everything together and to listen to what's being shouted at their faces and screamed at. There's a reason why they have been instructed by their command to cover their name tags. That's because working a line across from some demonstrators and the vile and the threats, and then the fact that they would immediately look their name up and try to get access to their families to tell them that they're standing right in front of your loved ones. But imagine putting yourself in that position and then maintaining composure and holding the position that you are. And these are human beings. And these are people placed in a very, very difficult situation. All I hear from council members and protesters and people I deal with, oh, there's a lot of good cops. Well, how are you discerning who you're screaming 2 feet away from in their face and saying the things you're doing? What's your definition of that officer. Good cop, bad cop? He doesn't want to be there, believe me. It's the last place he wants to be. And there's concerns for our families, quite frankly. There's some elements here that are putting threats out, posting a lot of information. The last thing an officer standing on a line for 12 hours wants to worry about is his family at home safe. And then to go home and hope that they can go to sleep for maybe 2 or 3 hours before they have to come back and not have to spend those 2 or 3 hours comforting their family that everything's okay. If there's a commitment out there to work together, then show it. Let's do it. Let's go forward. We've heard the message over and over again. Let's get to work.
Mike, has there been a vote? I don't know how it works in the bylaws, but did the rank and file support Chief Singletary through this? And what was their reaction yesterday? And do you have any sort of mechanism where you would have a vote of no confidence in the mayor among your membership, or is that just kind of what you're hearing?
I don't think we have to go that far to waste our time to hold a vote that we know the answer to. And at this point in time, our officers don't have a minute free to go to anywhere except to the next post and the next call for service. They rely on us to speak for them and to be their voice. But I can tell you that obviously we're in touch with all of our membership, and we've been receiving emails, texts, phone calls, personal comments all over. There's more of a fear of we can't do our job the right way, and I think what we're hearing as well from members of the community, and I spent some time today reaching out to different neighborhood groups, people that I know, to ask them, what's your feeling? How are you dealing with this? What are the people in your neighborhoods thinking about the events of the command staff leaving? There's a lot of concern. But there's also, I believe, a rising concern about the need for safety and the need for more officers in their neighborhoods. There's a concern that it's only going to get worse. Certainly there's a concern, are you guys going to be there tomorrow? Yes, we are. Somehow we're going to be there, and we're going to continue to be there. We're committed to that. As difficult and frustrating as it is, we're here, and we will be here. I won't say that it's a great morale right now. There's just so much concern for safety and welfare and what's going to happen next week. And there's a lot of conversation out there about working together and changing policing and getting to someplace better. Well, okay, we're ready. Tell us what you want us to do, and we'll do it. That's our job. Police don't determine what policing is. The communities do. So we're listening.
And since yesterday, have you talked to the chief and the command staff on what's happening now?
I spoke briefly last night, yesterday afternoon, today very briefly. Believe it or not, the majority of those conversations were into conversations that we have almost daily on certain concerns we may have. And like anything else, I ask them, are they okay? It's a difficult decision they made. I respect what their decisions are. I can't believe, if you asked me a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, if this would be occurring. But, like I said, this has been coming forward, and mainly from individuals in elected offices that seem to have all the answers and have all the solutions and know everything without ever asking a question. And at some point in time, it shouldn't be us to criticize. It should be the community and hold these people accountable. You know, whatever their other walk of life is, teacher, firefighter, retired city employee, I don't see any of them that have law enforcement experience. So you would think they'd want to engage with those that have some insight. You would hope they would do that as well.
Mike, there have been 7 police chiefs since Bob Duffy retired in 2005, and another one coming presumably. What do you make of that churn at the top and that amount of turnover?
I think that's a concern, certainly, on stability, and to have continuity, to be able to put a plan or initiatives that you believe in forward and see goals reached and outcomes met. When you are in a constant state of change, that becomes very, very difficult. And you have to build relationships and trust, even with your own people. And when you're seeing these changes, it's hard to really believe that the answers are coming. Or if the person who's saying this today is going to be there next week. So who do you start to believe and question? From our perspective, we try to provide some comfort in that level by maintaining some type of consistency.
How tough will it be now to get 7 new leaders in there rather than, I know losing a chief is a lot to replace, presumably, but when you talk about 7 in the command staff, I mean, it's...
Well, you think of it this way. You're asked to be in one of those spots, you probably got a question, is this a good career move? Am I going to be able to last? How long would I be there for? People have, like everyone else, cops have everything that everybody else has, and that's college bills and mortgages and a sense and a need for security. And people in those that would go into those positions have those same concerns as well. So I don't know who you're going to get to step up into them. And quite frankly, we're at a loss as well. We don't know. Will we have 7 strangers walk in that are going to know our community and have all the answers? How long will it take them to get up to speed? We've had chiefs from other areas before, and that didn't work out too well. We had a chief come in from Florida, and he brought a deputy chief with him, and 10 minutes later, the deputy chief's running a Burger King. I haven't seen great results that way. We had a chief here that came up from within the ranks, and we've said it over and over before. He was the Locust Club's first scholarship winner. We had hopes, and we have hopes for everybody. Officers come and take a job. You want every single officer out there working, no matter if it's midnights or in the afternoon, to have in the back of their mind that someday, if I keep doing this job right and keep going forward, that I can be chief. You need that level of goals to have a good department. I don't think we're seeing that anymore. That's a concern. Good? Good, good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. We probably got 6 more news conferences as things go as it was today. Good luck.
At the same time.
You need a better union, give me a call. Thank you.